You're listening to episode 57 of Burning Brightly, Become Best Friends with Your Body. This is Burning Brightly, a podcast for Christian moms who are feeling called to build a business and share their light with the world. I'm Bonnie Wiscombe, a life coach, mom, and entrepreneur, and I'm honored to be your guide as you face this business building adventure full of highs, lows, and everything in between. This is where we help each other find the courage to shine. Hey there, friends. Welcome back. I am excited about today's episode because we're going to talk about your body and how incredible and amazing it is and why it is so darn hard to love it and appreciate it just the way it is. We women especially really struggle to love and appreciate our bodies just the way they are. And I don't think this is an accident. I think this is a purposeful attack on women by the adversary. And so we're going to talk about this and how we can combat that and really step into the power that comes with loving and appreciating and treating your body with the kind of love and respect that it deserves. So our bodies really are truly objectively miracles. Modern science has absolutely no idea how some things in our bodies work. Like our brains, it's incredible how they work. And we're still just scratching the surface to understanding why it does and doesn't do the things that it does. We're still trying to figure things out. Even these neurologists that spend decades in school trying to figure out the brain, there's still so much they don't understand. Personally, the more I learn about my body, the more I realize how incredibly amazing and miraculous it is because I understand so very little about it. But I really do believe they're beautiful. Now, it bears mentioning that some Christian sects out there believe that our bodies are innately evil or wicked, that somehow they are holding us back from our best spiritual potential. I personally don't believe that. I believe that they are divinely designed, that means designed by God, to help us maximize our time here on earth. But we have to have a good relationship with it. You know, I've talked before about having a relationship with yourself, and I think having a relationship with your body is part of that. So we're going to talk about how to do that today. Now, if our bodies work as intended, let's just talk for a second about some of these miraculous things that we are able to do because of a body, particularly one that functions as intended. If our bodies work the way they're supposed to, they make energy from the fuel we give it. They grow and mature and develop the way they're supposed to, even if we give it really crappy fuel like Snickers bars and soda. Because I did that a lot of my teenage years, and I still grew up to be a very healthy adult individual. If they work as intended, they can walk and run and turn cartwheels. I want to acknowledge that many of us do struggle with issues or disabilities that make it hard for us to do the things that we would like to do in our body. And I fully acknowledge the pain and suffering that is involved in that. And I think we're all going to experience a portion of that as we age and our bodies become less able. But if they work the way they're supposed to, we can make babies, make other human beings with our body, and we can feed those human beings, and we can hug them, and we can laugh and cry together, and we can dance and sing and be entertained. Laughing is one of my favorite things to do in the whole wide world, and the way it makes you feel inside is just incredible. We can eat delicious things, and we can stretch and grow and move and compete in races and sports. Anyway, it's just an amazing, incredible creation, this body that we have. But like I said, it seems like the world in general is kind of out to get us and our bodies. It seems like everywhere we look, someone is telling us that our bodies are wrong in some way and that we need to change everything about ourselves. We are too fat, or we're too thin, or we're too pale, so we need a tan, or we're too dark, so we need to bleach our skin, or we're too old and wrinkly, so we need to look younger, or we look too young and no one's going to respect us, right? Like there's so much thrown at us about how our looks matter so much and that they are wrong in some way. So how in the world are we supposed to make friends with a body that is told everywhere we look that it is not enough? Not enough. Even the people that society thinks are the pinnacle of beauty and health, so Olympic athletes or celebrities, they are also criticized probably even more than us regular folks because they're in the public eye and told that they are too much or too little or too this or too that. Well, part of this stems from the fact that people like to be really unkind online. So if you need a reminder about how to deal with that, go back to my episode on haters and trolls. I talked about that in episode 21, August of 2023, last year. So that can be a good reminder that sometimes people just need to be mean, and we can deal with that in our own ways. But as far as the body goes, I can only share my own experience because I've only had one body. It's this one, and I have come a long way in learning to love it and become best friends with it. So in my youth, as probably many, many, many women, I had a lot of drama around my body, a lot. I had some real disordered eating. I had major hyper focus on my looks. I was also obsessed with the looks of others. And I'm really ashamed to say that very often I judged people very harshly on the way that they looked because it was so important to me. I wasted a lot of time, energy, focus that could have been spent towards something else, hyper-focusing on the looks of myself and of other people. And it affected my relationships with others. I wasn't able to be confident in a lot of situations because I was worried about how I looked. Like I said, I started to value or devalue other people based on their own looks. And I hated this about myself. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't really know how to get out of it. I finally got to a point in my late teen years where I was determined to fix it. And as a young adult, I started doing just that. Now in my 40s, I have to say I'm still far from perfect. I still work on this a lot. It's kind of ingrained in me, but I can honestly say that I now love my body so much. I am so grateful for every square inch of it, and I would not change anything about it. And I really mean that. There were many years where I wanted to say that and for it to be true, but it finally is true that I love it exactly the way it is. And that was a hard fought fight. So I'm going to give you some of the things that I went through and learned so that hopefully you can get to the same place in making friends with your body. All right, so let me tell you first about some of the thoughts that I needed to change, because as we know from that head, heart, hands model that I teach you, that everything starts with our thoughts. So the circumstance of my body is such right now. I'm 44 years old. I have some wrinkles. I have some gray hair. I have a fairly healthy amount of fat on my body now. I've been working pretty hard on that. I have a decent amount of muscle. I do have some issues with my body that are not perfect. My feet have some issues. My back has some issues, and I struggle with some back pain every now and again. So it's not like my body is this perfect specimen, but I have acknowledged over the years that how I think about my body directly controls how I feel about it, and then the action that I take, right? As in everything we know from that life coaching model. So for example, if I'm going to think I look old, then I'm going to feel something negative because society's told me that it's not okay to look old. And then I'm going to take action from that negative emotion. Maybe it's going to be frustration or disgust or annoyance or any number of negative emotions. I don't want to take action towards my body from negative emotion. I want to take action towards my body from very positive or motivating emotion. So sometimes I will feel like garbage, maybe because I ate too much sugar, and I will think, ooh, I don't feel so good. My body deserves better. And then I will feel motivated to eat better in the future, and I will take action from that motivation. Does that make sense? And this, just like anything in our business, in our family relationships, in anything, if we want to do better, we have to feel better first. We cannot beat ourselves up into taking better action. So this is something I learned at a very young age. When I beat myself up and think, you missed your workout, there's something wrong with you, or you are terrible in some way, then I feel terrible and I take terrible action. I don't all of a sudden feel motivated to get up and exercise the next day because I've beaten myself up about not exercising the day before. Does that make sense? So we want to feel better in order to take better action. So how can we change our thoughts in a way that's going to make us feel better and take better action? So here are some of the thoughts and feelings that I had to change over my very long journey of learning to become friends with my body. I had to work on the thought that some bodies were better than others. And admittedly, this is still something I struggle with. Innately, I think we all think that skinnier is better. Fitter is better. Maybe certain heights are better than others. Certain body shapes are better than others. And this is, of course, ingrained into us due to society and all of the pictures and videos and things that we're bombarded with on social media every single day. But I truly believe now that no body is better than another. Why would one body be better than another? That's not a thing. Just like one human is not better than another. We are all just on our own paths doing the best that we can. So for example, if someone is obese and experiencing the effects of obesity, which might be limited movement, maybe an increase in certain diseases, or it's a little bit harder for them to serve or show up for their family in that way, that doesn't make their body less good than someone who doesn't struggle with obesity. It's just different, really, truly. If we can wrap our head around that there really is no body that is better or worse than another, a lot of these other painful, damaging thoughts will just kind of fall away. So if this is a thought that you entertain, which it probably is, most of us do, I would invite you to take a look at it. Why do you think some bodies are better than others? If your body was quote unquote better in some way, more in alignment with what you think a perfect body should look like. By the way, there is no such thing as a perfect body, just like there's no such thing as a perfect human. Then what would that look like? What would that mean for you in your life? How would your life be better or easy if your body was more in alignment with what you think is quote unquote perfect? Now, like I said, I'm still working on this. Sometimes I envy the way other people look. I think, oh, I wish I had legs like that. Oh, I wish I was that tall. Oh, I wish I blah, blah, blah. But instead, I have chosen to really, really focus on how I feel. And the difference between how I look and how I feel is astronomical. Now, I'm not saying they're not correlated. They very much are. When I feel good, I very often look good because I'm doing the things to treat my body in a way that makes it perform better. And that often means that I look stronger or healthier, whatever. But that's probably the biggest pivot that I've seen in my life from being a youth with a lot of body image issues and being an adult who does not struggle with those issues anymore, for the most part. That is the major shift, is I was focusing on how I looked for the majority of the first 25 years of my life. And now I focus on how I feel. So let me give you an example. I'm training for a race right now. So that means some pretty intense days at the gym. I'm in there 6 days a week, sometimes multiple times a day. And most of the time I feel really good. Today, I woke up feeling a little under the weather. One of my kids has been sick and I think she's trying to pass her sickness on to me. And so my motivation was entirely based on how I feel. Do I go to the gym or not? I chose not to because I knew it was going to probably wear me down a little bit more. In the past, I would have only made those decisions based on how I looked. Did I like the way I looked in a swimsuit recently? Are my pants fitting, right? Is staying home from the gym today going to affect the way I look? And now I only base those decisions on how it's going to make me feel. I think that is a really, really pivotal change in thought process. And if you feel like you need to do the same, I encourage you to try it. Another thought and feeling that I decided to change over the years, little by little, was I started showing regular gratitude for my body. And most of the time, this is just in my head. Sometimes I write it down if I need to. But when my body was in a position that maybe a past me would have thought was not ideal, maybe was carrying some extra weight from a pregnancy, or was very pregnant and couldn't do much, or was very sick and couldn't do much, I would start listing the things that I was still very, very grateful for. So for example, if I had 35 pounds on me after having a baby, I would think, I am so grateful for a body that can have babies. I have so many friends that struggle with infertility. This is a huge blessing and I'm so grateful for it. When I couldn't run more than, a block, I really love to run. And so after every pregnancy, it's always a bit of a challenge to get back into the running game. When I couldn't run very far, I would thank my body for running at all. Running is very strenuous on your body sometimes. And so when I could run a block, I would say, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that I could get out here and enjoy nature and the outdoors and the fresh air and move my body because it makes me feel so good. So I would run for 2 or 3 songs on my playlist and then I would stop and walk and be so grateful for what I could do. And then after I had a traumatic birth and I started to wet my pants, which happens sometimes with the traumatic birth and damage to your pelvic floor, I tried to thank it for delivering my baby at all, for making sure that I had a healthy baby through a scary birth that could have ended a million different ways. So this was not always easy. It still isn't always easy. It is very often second nature to just fall into that negative thought spiral, to think over and over what's wrong with us. Oh, I wish I could get rid of these wrinkles. Oh, I wish I could get rid of this pudge. Oh, I wish I were stronger. I wish I were blah, blah, blah. Whatever keeps coming up for you. It's so easy to fall into that. So it requires active paying attention to both your thoughts and your feelings about your body to focus on that gratitude. What can you be grateful for your body today? What can you thank it for today? Did it get you out of bed? Yay! Have you had days where it didn't get you out of bed? Probably. Most of us have. Were you able to eat food without severe discomfort and illness? Probably. Have you had days where you haven't been able to do that? Yeah, probably. So this reminds me of The Gap and the Gain, one of my favorite self-help books of all times. If you still haven't read it, please put it on your list immediately. It's a quick read or a quick listen. But what we're doing here when we focus on the gratitude is we're focusing on the gain. What do we have that we may not be paying attention to that is so much better than it could be? We're not focusing on the gap where we still want to go. Well, I still want to lose weight. I still want to get stronger. I still want to be healthier. I still want to be more able. Great. It's always good to have goals and dreams, but let's focus on how much we already have. For most of us, we can stand up and walk and hug our loved ones and participate at work or at school. We can do so many things with this incredible body that we've been given. We eat food and process it and it turns into energy so we can move around. So amazing. So that's my challenge for you is what thoughts and feelings can you change to get you more in alignment with where you want to go with becoming best friends with your body? The last thought that I changed or challenged over these past 20 odd years is that I reminded myself that my body can do and be anything I need it to. So that was really powerful. Sometimes we like to feel stuck. We like to think, well, I could never this because my body can't. We just watched the Olympics. Some of the most amazing athletic stories come from someone who overcame some major hardships. The Paralympics are coming up soon, and that's incredible to watch these people overcome major disabilities and be able to perform as elite athletes because they thought they could, because they chose to see what they could do. So what could your body be capable of if you wanted to get it there? Could it be capable of better eating? Could it be capable of better sleep, of more abilities? Could you be capable of running a race or doing a sport you've never tried before? Could you be capable of walking around the block if you haven't gotten out in a while? What could you be capable of? And how would that make you think and feel towards your body as opposed to what it's been like in the past? All right, so those are the thoughts and feelings that I changed. Now let's talk about the actions that I changed, because of course in the head, heart, hands model, the head and the heart are the thoughts and the feelings. Those have to change first, and then the actions follow. Most people only look at the actions. So people might look at me and think, oh, well, it's easier for her to enjoy her body because she likes working out or she likes eating healthy. No, I had to change the thoughts and feelings first before I was able to change the actions. All right. Now, one of the actions had to do with my diet and what I was eating, because the fuel we give our bodies is super duper important. So if we're talking about making best friends with our body, let's think, for example, how we would take care of our own personal best friend. Think of your best friend or one close friend that you have. And if you were responsible for taking care of him or her for a week, what would you feed him or her? What would you prepare for them? What kind of snacks? What kind of treats? What kind of meals? Especially if that person were suffering in some way, needed extra loving care. You would probably make the best meal you know how. You would probably get the finest ingredients. You would probably make sure that that person is eating the way that is healthiest for their body because you want them to feel their best and maybe recover from some illness or surgery or something. So what I did over these past 20 years as I've learned to become best friends with my body is I stopped eating so much for pleasure and what I thought I quote unquote deserved, and instead what made my body feel good. You guys, this was a game changer. And I'm not saying that I never eat for pleasure. I absolutely do. Do you guys like Mint Milanos? They are some of my favorite cookies. I've bought multiple packages in the past week and have eaten them all. Nope, didn't even share them with my children, and I'm okay with that. So I firmly believe that the pleasure that comes from eating is a wonderful one, but I think it should represent a very small portion of our overall eating. If we are predominantly eating for pleasure 98% of the time, our bodies are not going to be in a good state. Why? Because our food supply is garbage. Have you been to a grocery store lately? 90% of the stuff in there is packaged and processed within an inch of its life. And if you just go around picking what sounds good, your body is going to suffer big time. Okay. So this is something I had to gradually learn little by little. I had to really listen to my body. When I eat something predominantly for pleasure, let's say a piece of cake, how do I feel? How does that show up in my body? How does it show up in my life long term if I continue to eat like that? Versus eating for fuel and feeling really good and then pleasure just a small portion of the time. And I will tell you something else. Now that I start eating more for fuel and for feeling good and pleasure less amount of the time, when I do eat for pleasure, it is so much more enjoyable. I am very intentional about what I eat. I don't just eat my kids' leftover snacks or finish off their half-eaten donut. I decide ahead of time, I'm going to have a small bowl of this amazing ice cream that I just spent a lot of money on because it's one of my favorites and it's been hiding in the back of the freezer for a few days, right? I'm very intentional and thoughtful about it, and I really enjoy the experience instead of just kind of shoving my mouth full of whatever sounds good in the moment. So stopped eating so much for pleasure, more for fuel, but still making time for that pleasure maybe 10, 15% of the time instead of 80% of the time. Another thing I started to do action-wise was I started challenging my body with races and exercise. So one of the most incredible things about your body is that it has almost infinite potential. When we look at the athletes in the Olympics, like, can you imagine what it would be like to train and perform at that elite level? They have worked for years to get there, which means the potential your body has for what it can do is almost unlimited. Definitely untapped if you're not an elite athlete already. There's so much that we could do. I'm not saying you have to go try to get in the Olympics. If you're in your 40s, that ship has sailed. I've acknowledged that. Side note, that is a pretty funny thing about the Olympics when they're like, oh, that person is, one of the oldest people in their sports, and they're like 29 years old. They actually feel a little bit old. I'm not saying we have to become elite athletes, but ask yourself how you could push your body to see what it is capable of. This for me was huge. It is really hard to hate or be disgusted at a body that is fast and strong because it makes you feel so capable. So one of the things that I always missed after having a baby was feeling strong. Some of my babies I was able to lift weights and run and exercise really intensely throughout the pregnancy, and some I was not. And the ones when I was not, I would have my baby and I would just be sitting around the couch thinking, I feel like a slug. Like I can't lift things. I can't move very well. My back would hurt. I really, really suffered when I didn't have more muscle tone and I had extra fat. So when I started challenging my body, it became this really fun experiment to see how far I could push it. So when I started lifting weights after my last baby, I remember thinking, okay, just getting through the workout and not being super sore the next day is my goal. And then when I got to that, I thought, well, maybe I could go a little bit stronger. Maybe I could try a longer workout. Maybe I could try lifting and then running. Maybe. And I just progressed from there. Little by little by little, I got better and faster and stronger. And it is an incredible experiment to see what your body is capable. I love it so much. And maybe going to the gym is not your thing, but maybe you really miss playing basketball, that you did that in high school and you would do anything to feel fit enough to throw a ball around with your teenagers again. Do it. Start small. Start walking around the neighborhood and then start shooting a few hoops in your driveway. And then maybe a couple of one-on-one games with a kid that's going to take it easy on you, right? Little by little, see if you could push your body and challenge it to do something greater. This is closely related to my next change in my actions that I did, and that was paying attention to the rest and recovery that my body needed. I kind of have type A perfectionist tendencies. It's not always a good thing. And very often I would push myself through what needed to be a rest or a recovery day. For example, today needed to be a rest and recovery day. My past self would probably not have always allowed that. So I'm so grateful for understanding that this is a time and space when I need to make room for rest and recovery. Frankly, I would argue all times of life are those times when you need to make space for rest and recovery, but especially as we age, we acknowledge this more and more that our body needs downtime. We already know that our muscles repair and recover when they're resting, just like our brain makes connections when it's sleeping. So if we don't allow that rest and recovery for our body, we wear out really quickly, and it's hard to appreciate a body that is always tired. Okay, another action I changed was I started noticing small things that I had ignored or taken for granted in the past. For example, how strong my hands are. Seems kind of silly, but I can grab like 6 grocery bags at once and take them into the house. That is a huge blessing. What if I had injured a hand or broken a wrist or done something that had limited my ability in some way? I wouldn't have that. And so I'm grateful for that. How good my balance is. I'm really grateful for how good I've become at balancing on one foot, or when somebody throws a ball at me or I'm thrown off balance in some way or another. I am pretty quick to heal from procedures. I've had some skin cancer procedures over the years. I heal pretty quickly. I currently don't have any regular pain in my body, which is a huge blessing and not one that everyone is grateful for. Those might not be the ones that you can be grateful for, but what are small things that you can start to notice and talk about? So yes, this kind of goes back to the thoughts and the feelings of being grateful. But when I notice them, I actually physically move them. Like I might think about my strong hands and flex them, right? I might think about my balance and try it out. Yeah, I am really good at balance, or any number of other things that I'm grateful for. So see if you can incorporate those things that you're grateful for into your life a little bit more. Another action that I changed was I stopped criticizing my body. Granted, most of this was in my head, so you could argue that it's a thought, but very often it would be publicly and out loud as well. I would say, oh, I wish this or that, or oh, I hate that this or that. And I got really tired of this. I'm like, what is the benefit of talking about how much I hate my thighs? There is zero benefit. Instead, it just makes me bitter and complaining all the time, and nobody wants to listen to me or be around me. Instead, I choose to focus on the strength that my legs have, or my core has, or my arms have, and to work on the things that I'd like to improve. I also changed the clothes that I wear in a small way. I started being very mindful of how the clothes I wore made me feel. So in the past, I would have worn clothes that looked cute, but made me feel kind of not so great. They were too tight, or the heels were too high, or they were uncomfortable in some way. Now I wear clothes that are comfortable, but I also wear them that flatter my body and make me feel amazing. And this is such a personal decision. You might feel the best in workout clothes, and so you only want to wear leggings and tank tops. Great. You wear what makes you feel amazing in your body. But for me, it's to dress up a little bit. It's to wear something that is relatively flattering on my shape, my body shape, and it's to wear something that I can be pretty comfortable in. The side note, that balance is kind of hard to find, something that's a little bit dressy and also comfortable, but I've worked really hard at it because that helps me appreciate my body more. The last action that I've worked on changing, and side note, I'm actively still working on this, is giving my body space and permission to age and not be perfect. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but if you've hit about 35 or so, you've probably paid attention to how your body is starting to change. That over the years, our body starts to lose collagen and muscle tone and bone density, and things become harder. It becomes harder to maintain balance. It becomes harder to feel strong. It becomes harder to stay healthy. Your body starts to age and gradually decline. That's going to lead to death. That is normal. That is what a body is supposed to do. So how are we going to confront this aging? It's important to decide now. If you decide in your 20s, 30s, and 40s how you're going to age, it's going to help you a lot, because you won't be taken by surprise when your body starts to change and look differently and be less able to do things than you were in the past. And you are more likely to appreciate it all the way through. So I personally have opted out of any cosmetic procedure designed to make me look younger. This is a super personal decision, but I personally am tired of fighting my body. I spent many, many years fighting it. I spent many years being ungrateful for it and many years of wishing it were different. And I'm tired of that. I don't want to do it anymore. I want my body to know that I love it exactly the way it is. Wrinkles and gray hair and all, and saggy skin. I love it. And I'm so grateful for it. I want to love my body the way it is, because unfortunately, fighting aging is a losing battle. If you choose to do anything that quote unquote fights aging, great. That's totally a personal decision. But for me personally, I've noticed that it's never going to end. I'm just going to keep getting older, and it's not a battle that I want to fight. I want to just step into appreciating and loving my body exactly the way it is at any day, wherever I am. For me, actively working on accepting my body the way it is one of the greatest gifts that I can give back to God, because I acknowledge that God gave me this body. He created this incredible miracle. Like I said, we barely scratched the surface at understanding how it even works. And I want to step into gratitude. I want to show him every day how grateful I am for it and the way he designed it, even if I don't always appreciate all the little oddities about it. But that is what I am working on right now, is becoming my body's best friend and loving it exactly the way it is, because we don't try to change our best friends. Our best friends, we love exactly the way they are. Now, it doesn't mean we don't want them to get better. And with our bodies, we actually have an active role in that. We can eat better. We can exercise better. We can sleep better. We can take better care of it. But the things that we can't change, we don't sit around and moan and complain about them, because we love them anyway. So that's what I'm working on. I hope some of my journey through becoming my own body's best friend is helpful to you. I hope that it allows you to look at your body through a different lens, a lens of gratitude and love and fully embracing your body exactly the way it is. A final reminder, you are not your body. This is one of my favorite things to teach people. Your body is simply the home of your soul. And so when your body is not able or doesn't look or feel the way you would like it to, it doesn't mean you are any less of a person. You're just functioning in a body that's not maybe at its 100% capacity. And that's okay. That's part of living this mortal life. So let's take care of our bodies the best way we know how and enjoy every last minute of having one. Talk to you next week, friends. Are you ready to start or grow your dream business? Click the link in the show notes to download the free starter guide to building a business or to schedule a free coaching call with me. And if you loved this episode, don't forget to leave a review and share it with a friend who might be feeling the call to burn a little brighter.